being attacked. This has never been thought of. And I think that the same shock we heard it from the US and from the president himself, that he will not allow this to happen again. And he will make sure that all the assurances that we will require will be in place for us.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you about some of those mediation efforts in just a second, but just to close this out, how did the momentum then change after that? You said that President Trump spoke to His Highness and said this could be an opportunity. How did we get from then September 9th to the ceasefire? Did something change in the calculation of the Americans saying we're willing now to put leverage on Israel to bring them to sign this deal in a way that we hadn't seen before?
Well, I think that the attack itself has shown the U.S. that there are all the red lines being crossed now in the region. And, you know, Qatar is a country that hosts 10,000 U.S. soldiers. And we have the largest U.S. airbase outside the United States that we are hosting in Doha. Having an attack from a U.S. ally is out of the equation for us. Yeah. And it was never calculated in our defense formula. And look, if you look at like throughout the history of Qatar, we've been attacked 3 times. The first time was by Saddam Hussein. It was Scud missiles which fall in the desert in the 90s. The second time was with Iran when they were responding to the US, and we intercepted most of the missiles. One of them has reached the target in our base, actually, in our side of the base, also not the US side of the base. This attack was different because it killed one of our citizens. And basically, you know that how emotional we were at that time. But His Highness, when the president mentioned that to him, he stood up for it. He stood up for his region, and he put the region's interest ahead of his own interest. And we know that this is something that will bring stability to the region without, compromising the rights of our people and the rights for our country to be protected.
Do you think, because you said that it brought the GCC a little bit closer and other countries in the region saw that if Qatar can be attacked this way, they too certainly can be attacked. Did that change the calculation? Do you have any insight whether it changed the calculation of other countries in the region as to how they perceive Israel and whether or not a country like Saudi Arabia would go ahead with Abraham Accords?
No, definitely. Actually, it affected how the GCC looking at Israel now, because when they see the attack on one of the countries, you have seen like the first leader who visited Qatar was Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed, the president of United Arab Emirates, and then the next day we have the summit, and we have the Crown Prince of Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and we have the defense ministers coming together a couple of days after the attack in order to coordinate and to recalibrate our defense formula. This attack was a shock, but was a game changer for the entire region. The entire GCC started to rethink where the threats will be coming from. Now we have seen, we have witnessed a lot of conflicts, and we have mediated in a lot of conflicts, and we went through a lot of unfortunate events throughout these mediations. But attacking the mediator was like
unprecedented,
and it was out of any calculation.
Speaking of your mediation roles, you were talking about some of the ones. I think you're mediating currently 7, maybe 8 conflicts around the world that Qatar is involved in. Why? Why do you want to take on the headache of negotiating one is fine, but then negotiating 8 around the world? Why take on that responsibility and put yourself in a situation where you constantly are in these high-stakes talks?
Look, you have, if you are a state, you are between two choices. Either you are a passive and just, stay there and doing nothing about it. I'm a small country. Thanks God, I'm blessed with resources. I have a small population, and I can just, focus on my country and my country development. And this is our priority for. But the region that we are living in, it's not it's not an easy region. It's a region that has a lot of history, has a lot of baggages that came from this history, and also you see proxies, ancient wars everywhere. We found out that Qatar's ability to move in a discreet way, in below the radar, and making sure that conflicts can be resolved, even sometimes it can be prevented before it happens, and can be resolved in quiet rooms. And we proved that successfully. Qatar became a responsible player in that field. And mediation actually is something that enshrined in our constitution. And since the founder of the country, Sheikh Jassim, he's someone who was always calling for peace, always calling for engagement, for dialogue. And this is just a heritage that we have, and we are happy that today we are defined as global mediator, not only for the region, but this trust that we have built throughout the years in our mediations in the region made our mediation becoming more global. And you see that it's going all the way from Latin America to Africa to Asia, and that's basically what we are doing.
Are you making progress on any of the other ones that you feel will be resolved? I mean, you talked about Colombia, you talked about Rwanda. Which one are you most optimistic about?
All of them are ongoing right now. Honestly, I cannot distinguish one from another. But for example, with the recent conflict between Pakistan and Afghanistan, we hosted a round of talks that led to a ceasefire. Now the second round of talks to extend the ceasefire has been ongoing in Turkey in the last few days. And this is something which we are hoping that will see a result as soon as possible. But then DRC and Rwanda, it's also a very complex issue. We try to make sure that progress in the right direction, and that we have enough understanding in order to propose for them a meaningful solutions.
Okay. We can open up some of the questions now to members of the council, and I think we also have some people online, so I think if there's anyone that has a question, please raise your hand, and we can start in the back and work our way up front to this lady right here. Yeah.
I'm Alexandra Starr with International Crisis Group. I was wondering if you could speak about the role Qatar has played in mediation with Venezuela.